After more than 20 years with Panasonic, Magnus McDermott has learned a lot about what it means to truly partner with a customer and the types of innovations and advancements that can be born out of those relationships. Magnus holds a number of positions within Panasonic, including SVP of Panasonic North America and Panasonic Canada President Heartland Customer Solutions, SVP Mobility Solutions of the USA, and VP of Enterprise Solutions for Canada. But regardless of what title he holds, Magnus explains that his success and the success of the company as a whole all comes down to the relationships with the customer. It is through these relationships that some of Panasonic's most popular and important products have been created, and the partnership between the company and the customer continues to be a well of innovation. On this episode of IT Visionaries, Magnus talks about all of that and more, plus he gives his advice on how to stick and grow within a company for decades. Enjoy this episode. This podcast is sponsored by the Lightning Platform by Salesforce. Salesforce just introduced the Lightning Platform Mobile, the low-code mobile app development platform that empowers anyone to easily build, publish, and manage AI-powered mobile apps for employees and for customers. Find out more at salesforce.com/buildmobileapps.
Welcome to another episode of IT Visionaries. I'm Ian Faison, Chief Content Officer here at Mission.org. And on the other line, Magnus, what's going on?
Hey, Ian. Keeping busy. Things are good at Panasonic. Nice to talk to you today.
Yeah, so we're going to get into, you've had a long career at Panasonic, and we're going to get into all of that. We're going to talk about some deliveries, some rapid application development, some voice stuff. You know, we're gonna talk through some tough book action. I have a good tough book story for you and all that. But first, how did you get to Panasonic in the first place?
I immigrated from Scotland to Canada back in 1989, and I had a background in the food services business. And I ended up working for a UK company who was reselling and distributing payment systems and POS systems and those types of products, mostly to the hotel industry. And through that, we, as a company, started reselling some Panasonic POS systems. So really from there, I got to know some people at Panasonic, was engaged with them, was doing some buying and some joint projects, and an opportunity came up with them to join their sort of POS, food service and retail group, and I joined the company in 1996. So that's how I ended up at Panasonic.
You know, early in those days, what were the things that were excited about, you know, working in technology and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, Panasonic was, you know, one of the big brands. It was in those days particularly known for consumer products. So I had a sort of, you know, cachet about it. Although the company at that point was majority consumer products, that had a fairly strong B2B business that most people didn't even realize we were in. And the POS food service retail group I joined was, we had some major contracts with some major quick service chains. So it was just an opportunity to join a big company that was involved in many, many businesses and, was a very strong leader in the market at that time and still is.
And so tell me a little bit about like your current role, what you're doing, what's the scope of responsibilities, size of the team and all that.
Okay, I have two roles, really three roles, but two major ones. So I'm primarily based out of our Toronto facility, our Toronto area, and I run all of our B2B solutions business for the Canadian market. You know, tough book, some security business, professional AV, communications product security. And then 3 years ago, I was asked to concurrently run the tough book mobility business for the United States. And that's part of Panasonic Solutions company based in Newark, New Jersey. So I bounce between the two. And then recently, I've also taken on a role. We made an acquisition of our services company out of Kansas City, Missouri. They do a lot of our deployment and configuration and repair services. So I'm heading that organization at least through a transitionary period.
You know, looking at, you know, our listeners, a lot of CIOs, IT leaders, and people that are, you know, CTOs and focus on productivity, on the new worker, on what it means to be a new worker. One of the things that is really exciting about, Panasonic. And as someone who, you might not know this, but so I spent about a decade in the Army, and I had a tough book when I was in the Army and also when I was deployed to Afghanistan. So I spent many years with the tough book. But, I think there's a lot of people that in kind of the new age that didn't used to have computers that now absolutely have to have a computer every single day as their workstation. What do you see as kind of like the writing on the wall here for organizations that have folks that are out in the field that are doing stuff that needs something, reliable, that doesn't break and all of that?
Yeah, well, I'm really glad to hear you know Tough Book well. I mean, Tough Book was really designed because of customer feedback. So back in 95, 96, customers wanted to start having mobile workers use software applications out in the field. We were really moving from the clipboard and pen days. And what they found was, traditional consumer type devices just didn't, withstand that. They didn't work well in vehicles. They didn't work well outside. And that was really how Tough Book was originally built and conceived. So, customers like the military, customers like utilities and police agencies and first responders, these have been our sort of core customers for many years now. And it's really allowing them to drive more applications out to the field, more applications to their field workers. And that has just evolved and continues to evolve, since we started this business. Now it's almost like all workers are now equipped with devices. So we have a range of devices to do different things. We have vehicle-mounted devices. We have handhelds for personal use. And, the infrastructure and ecosystem that people need to situate with their field workers just continues to grow. And we continue to be part of that product development, as well as working with a lot of software and application partners to, drive more of those solutions to those mobile workers.
Do you think that like the future work and tough jobs and things like that, I mean, where does it kind of go with some of this stuff? Because I think, as you kind of mentioned, with so many devices, with so many different things, you have kind of the folks who are, I talk to a lot of executives that like pretty much only use their phone now for work because they don't ever need to do anything that, has a spreadsheet or anything like that. And then you have other folks who really need to have a desktop all the time. Do you think that, the way that the worker changes as well as the device?
Yeah, I mean, it'll continue to evolve. I mean, mobility is truly becoming mobility. We're looking things around wearables in the future. A lot of it depends on the software ecosystem and customers as well, and what they need those workers to do. I talk to companies all the time. We're looking at payment systems like facial recognition, all sorts of Uber-like type applications running in different types of industries. And I just think there's a massive focus. But the core comes down to we deploy these devices in areas that are just, as you had with your own experience, very mission critical. They just can't fail. So the commitment that we have to building high quality engineering, things that can withstand, because if the device breaks or the hardware breaks, the technology breaks, you can no longer deploy the software. So that's kind of, our position. We specialize in this. We don't make consumer, computing devices. We're a highly specialized niche player, if you like, in B2B solutions. So that's where we see our continued development. And it all really comes down to having very close relationships with customers, working with them just as we devise Tough Book based on the voice of customer. It's continue to work and continue to be close to customers and build products and solutions that really help them, solve the problems that are on hand. And that's part of all the whole Gemba philosophy you're probably starting to hear from Panasonic right now.
Yeah, and how do you do that? How do you work with customers and get feedback? And what are those types of customers?
So our main customer groups, I always like to, we deal with IT and C-suite customers all the time when we're talking about technology advancement. But the great thing about Tough Book is it's a really blue-collar business. Our customers are, driving trucks and working in mines and utility companies and, armed forces. And so we try and engage as closely as we can. We have engineering teams who will work with customers on future technology. We have close, obviously, sales and product teams. We spend a lot of our time doing type advisory type events where we bring in end user groups. We will bring engineers from Japan and we'll talk about, the future of their industry, what technology is working right now, what pain points they have. So, it's not just our whole marketing and product and communication with the customer isn't just all done online. It's very much face-to-face and personal. And through that, we have, worked with major corporations to develop new types of products and solutions. And it's, to me, sales and marketing is really more or less about numbers and more about relationships with customers. And, Panasonic has done a good job with that over the years. And, we've maintained long-term relationships with customers because I think we're seen as a trusted partner to be able to bring technology to them.
I don't know if I'm saying this right, so we might need to cut it, but is the Gemba process, what's it?
Gemba.
Yeah, okay.
I hadn't heard the word either, Ian, so don't feel so bad. It's a very well-known word in Japan.
Okay, yeah. Can you tell us about this?
What Gemba really is, Gemba Process Innovation. Gemba really in Japan literally means where work is done. So I always use the example, if you're working in a warehouse and you're picking boxes, that's Gemba. If you're, a data entry person and you're entering data, that's Gemba. That's literally what it means. The process innovation part is really where we sort of start to build technology. So the company's focus, or this part of the company, Panasonic's a very diverse organization, is really focusing on key markets, supply chain, logistics, manufacturing, and all the changes that are happening there, mostly driven by e-commerce. And how do we drive technology solutions to help, trucking companies, warehousing companies involved in the delivery of goods for e-commerce to help streamline operations, make them cheaper, make them more efficient. Everybody's seen the highly automated, Amazon facilities, but there are thousands of other facilities across the country that are much more manual and much more traditional. And, we help facilitate and drive some new solutions around there. And then we look at, policing, for example, where we've got, huge market share with our traditional devices. What's next for them? We're working on some projects around minimizing distracted driving, helping them consolidate a lot of the information. They tend to operate with several different databases of information while in the vehicle in a high-speed situation. So we're working on some software applications that helps consolidate that and deliver the information, say, with a heads-up display, for example. So these are the types of, we take our sort of core customer relationship where we're driving devices, and then we try and work with them to solve additional problems and build new technology and technology solutions that will help them drive their business. So essentially, that's the essence of Gemba process innovation.
One of the things I've found really interesting was that Panasonic had been around 100 years. I mean, it's just remarkable to be in an organization that has that much history. What is it kind of like carrying the mantle at a company when you've been innovating for, 100 years, since before anyone in the company was alive?
Yeah, I mean, it is a remarkable story. I don't know if it ever gets, as much attention maybe in the Western world than it probably has. I mean, the business was started by Mr. Matsushita building a light bulb adapter in the back room of his house, in 1918. And from there, also the company survived the Second World War, which, obviously for Japan was economically very difficult. And, by the mid-60s, they were globally expanding into becoming one of the largest electronic manufacturers in the world. So, it's a tremendous story of business success when you look at it that way. The early company was also quite innovative in terms of work culture and things like that. They introduced the first company to have a 5-day working week in Japan, for example. But what Matsushita did early was work out how to do distribution, how to diversify the company. He introduced a couple of things, a kind of whole philosophy around autonomous management. And then he set a sort of core set of principles that run the business. And so there's the 7 core Panasonic principles, if you ever look them up. And, frankly, when you look at them, they're just as relevant today as, they ever were. But I think that why Panasonic has survived so long is it has been highly diversified, moved into many different business areas, and that has allowed it to, ride out various technology trends. And, as one business maybe fades, as technology change, we have other, growing businesses on other parts of the company. So it's a great story. I mean, I've worked at Panasonic as a long time, as you said, but I've been able to do lots of different things within Panasonic because it really is quite a diverse collection of different businesses.
So how do you innovate internally? Do you do things like hackathons or, like citizen development or things like that? Like what types of things do you do to have employees inside your org, stay innovative?
We try and keep as many parts of the business as we can centered around customers. And then we have some specialized innovation groups based predominantly in Japan, but some here in the United States. So we will put those groups together, particularly with customers. And, quite often I deal with a lot of these innovation groups. We've got a lot of technology. They just kind of developed because it was good technology to develop, and they didn't actually have a use case for it. And so that's where sometimes it's great to connect our, employees who are close to customers or product groups. I'll give you an example. Facial recognition technology was initially designed by Panasonic in Japan strictly for security. Really used at airports to catch, people who are on wanted lists. But now we're seeing a lot of demand for everything from analytics in retail stores, some change in labor laws in California where, workers have to be paid the minute they walk onto a premises. Some companies are looking at using facial recognition for that. So, you can take a core technology that was developed for one business, and by, working with our teams who work very specifically across different verticals, they're very close to each of the industries they work in, we can take those technologies and move it across and innovate that way.
What about what's next? What is next for Panasonic in terms of how you can continue to kind of push the cutting edge, and get that feedback from customers and put it out in the market?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's next for us is we recognize, within the B2B solutions organization that we have been primarily in the hardware business up until this point. We're making organizational and structural changes to enable us to bring those Gemba process type innovation solutions to market faster. And also we've realigned where we put a lot of our software development resources. Traditionally, it's been in Japan. We feel sometimes there's a little bit of distance between the customers, so we now have resources here based in the United States, both New York, Chicago, and some, Texas. We have software capability. And we really want to start looking at how we build out, specific applications driven by our customers, and then build a whole services portfolio around it. I mentioned earlier, we had acquired our services company in Kansas City, Heartland Customer Solutions. And we see that as, the kind of epicenter of how we build out more engineering services, managed services for customers, both reseller channel partners as well as some end-use customers as well. So that's how we see the next evolution of our business.
Switching gears to some of the leadership kind of challenges, do you find it's tough to manage, a team that is in multiple time zones? What are some best practices of managing a team the size that you've been doing for a long time?
Yeah, I mean, I can manage a couple of different teams, and you're right, in the United States, they're geographically located all over the country. I mean, my philosophy around always, leading organizations is relatively straightforward. Is my main job as a business leader is to find the right people and put them in the right jobs, communicate our strategy clearly, and then allow those people to do their jobs. I mean, I've found that effective. So to me, it's all about team development, putting the right people in place. If everybody's buying into the strategy and the messaging and, the overall business structure, I found that's the most effective way to lead organizations. It's kind of back to the original, Matsushita philosophy, a little bit of autonomous management. I have hundreds of people who technically in my organization, so I couldn't possibly, manage them on a day-to-day basis. So it's all around communication and trust.
Yeah, totally. I mean, are you using like obviously digital tools and things like that. But what are the things that like, you use to, decrease silos and increase collaboration and things like that? And I don't mean necessarily specific vendors, but some of those kind of like techniques that can kind of help get everyone on the same page or things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, even within Toughbook, I mean, we even have our own sort of silos within Toughbook. We have, specialized teams doing federal government, for example, and then we have specialized teams working transportation, logistics, field service, manufacturing, then public sector and utilities. So although the product lineup might be similar, the businesses actually have their own sort of nuances and their own identity. So we meet regularly as a team, either remotely, using various web tools and things just as we're doing today. We do meet face to face monthly basis. We have quarterly business reviews, and then we also have meetings out of our own business groups with the other B2B channels within Panasonic. And one of the things we've done recently is formed a new sort of solutions marketing center here in the United States. So instead of just having a mobility marketing group and a security marketing group, we've got a sort of overriding organization that's taking a much more holistic view of the business overall. And so if we're going into the same sort of industry, the same customer set, but with completely different products, we will now be ensuring that it's the same look, feel, messaging, so customers have a little more straight interaction with the company and the breadth of technology and solutions that we can actually bring.
Let's get into the lightning round. These questions are fast and easy, just like the lightning platform from Salesforce. Fast and easy questions coming at you. Magnus, are you ready?
I'm ready, sir.
Number one, what app are you using on your phone that is the most fun?
Uber Eats.
What is your favorite time-saving tool?
Uber Eats.
Nice. Favorite vacation spot?
Highlands of Scotland.
So we had, when we had Graham, the CIO at Informatica, he said Isle of Arran. He said that's his number one.
I go a little further north. I go way up north.
Isle of Skye? Where are you talking here?
Skye on the west side. I usually got to a place called Dornoch, which is up in the northeast of Scotland. So Dornoch has a magnificent golf course that nobody's ever really heard of because it's quite remote. And the other amazing thing about it was Madonna got married there to Guy Ritchie. So that's two claims of fame.
I love it. That's great. Do you have a favorite book or recent podcast that you've read or listened to recently?
My favorite book was Graham Greene, Our Man in Havana. Always loved that book.
What technology are you most excited about coming in the future?
That's a good question. I'm most, from a work point of view, I'm probably more interested in how we evolve into some of the wearable type devices. I think from a personal point of view, I'm, kind of everything on an app and all the time saving and things I can do from an application type driven. We work a lot in the restaurant sector still, and there's a lot of things happening in that space around payment, mobile ordering, affecting the whole supply chain, which I think will be tremendously game changing for people in their lives as well as the industry itself.
How about best advice for someone to stay in a company as long as you have? A lot of people switch companies every year, every couple of years now, but you've been holding strong. What's the secret?
I think for me, a company like Panasonic has many different businesses. So although it's the same company, I've probably had 6 or 7 different jobs. So, that's helped me stay interested and motivated with new challenges. I think with any organization, it's really understanding how it actually works. I mean, every organization has a structure. Panasonic is a kind of combination of a North American and a Japanese business. And it's, really understanding the fundamentals of how the company works, what it's really committed to, how the internal structures work and how that relates to the external. And, large organizations can be fascinating sometimes about, how things work from a political point of view, organizational structure. I always believe you should listen more than you talk, and I think anybody joining a big company like Panasonic, just spend some time, get to know how it works, and it'll be different. And Japanese companies, I'm sure, are very different from Korean companies, very different from German companies. They each have their identity. You got to figure out what the identity is and where you fit into that.
Awesome. Magnus, that's all we got. That's it for today. We really appreciate coming on the show and hanging out. Any final thoughts or anything to plug?
I'll do the plug. I mean, our tough book business is it's growing. It continues to be profitable. We're close to our customers. We're happy with where the business is going, and we're endlessly committed to quality and ensuring customers are, truly see us as a technology partner. And if we keep doing that, I think our business will continue to grow. I always say to my team, anybody can sell a customer once. Can you do it 2, 3, 4 times? Can you maintain those relationships for 10, 15, 20 years? And I think we're good at that.
It's a great point. Great last words. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, Ian.
Salesforce just introduced Salesforce Blockchain, the industry's first truly declarative blockchain platform integrated into your CRM. Learn more at salesforce.com/blockchain.